everybody. Welcome to the Sampradaya channel for another session of reading and discussion of Sophie's World, which is the Eastern philosophy of our session. We read Enlightenment subchapter. Today, we are going to do a chapter about Kant, K-A-N-T, and the philosophy associated with his ideas. So we are joined in the panel by Gaarder.
Vishwagar, your voice is not at all good.
Good means is it is it better now?
Yeah, it is better now.
Okay. No, I think it's the positioning of the mic.
Now it's
So
good.
now
Now it's
it's
good.
good. Okay. So let me say it again. Welcome everybody to the Sapragna channel and for another reading and discussion of Sophie's World, which is Western Philosophy 101. So in the previous session, we did a subchapter on enlightenment. And today we are going to discuss Kant, K-A-N-T, Kant's philosophy or Kant or however you want to pronounce it, and some of the ideas that he proposed. So Eskegaru is going to start the reading session.
Okay. Okay, this is again a conversation. So you'll take your lines and I'll take my
Yeah,
lines.
no
Okay.
problem.
Yeah. Kant. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. Okay. It was close to midnight before Major Albert Nag called home to wish Hilda a happy birthday. Hilda's mother answered the telephone.
It's for you, Hilda.
Hello?
It's Dad.
Are you crazy? It's nearly midnight.
I just wanted to say happy birthday,
You've been doing that all day.
but I didn't want to call before the day was over.
Why?
Didn't you get my present?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
It's terrific. I have hardly eaten all day. It's so exciting.
I have to know how far you have gotten.
They just went inside the major's cabin because you started teasing them with a sea serpent
The enlightenment.
and Olympe de Gorgeous.
So I didn't get it completely wrong.
Wrong in what way?
I think there's one more birthday greeting to come, but that one is set to music.
Hmm. I would better read a little more before I go to sleep.
You haven't given up then.
I have learned more in this one day than ever before. I can hardly believe that it's less than 24 hours since Sophie got home from school and found the first envelope.
It's strange how little time it takes to read.
But I can't help feeling sorry for her.
For mom?
No, for Sophie, of course.
Why?
The poor girl is totally confused.
But she's only,
You were going to say she's only made up.
yes, something like that.
I think Sophie and Alberto really exist.
We'll talk more about it when I get home.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
What?
I mean, good night.
Good night. Okay. When Hilda went to bed half an hour later, it was still so light that she could see the garden and the little bay. It never got really dark at this time of the year. She played with the idea that she was inside a picture hanging on the wall of the little cabin in the woods. She wondered if one could look out of the picture into what surrounded it. Before she fell asleep, she read a few more pages in the big ring binder. So she's reading. Sophie put the letter from Hilda's father back on the mantle. Alberto? Vishwagaru, Alberto.
What he says, sorry, I was on mute. What he says about the United Nations is not important. Is not unimportant, said Alberto. But I don't like him interfering in my presentation.
I don't think you should worry too much about that.
Nevertheless, from now on, I intend to ignore all extraordinary phenomena, such as sea serpents and the like. Let's sit here by the window while I tell you about Kant.
Sophie noticed a pair of glasses lying on a small table between two armchairs. She also noticed that the lenses were red. Maybe they were strong sunglasses. Okay, it's almost 2 o'clock, she said. I have to be home before 5. Mom has probably made plans for my birthday.
That gives us 3 hours.
Let's start.
Immanuel Kant was born in 1724 in the East Prussian town of Königsberg, the son of a master saddler. He lived there practically all his life until he died at the age of 80. His family was deeply pious, and his own religious conviction formed a significant background to his philosophy. Like Berkeley, he felt it was essential to preserve the foundations of Christian belief.
I have heard enough about Berkeley, thanks.
Kant was the first of the philosophers we have heard about so far to have taught philosophy at a university. He was a professor of philosophy.
Professor?
There are two kinds of philosophers or philosopher. One is a person who seeks his own answers to philosophical questions. The other is someone who is an expert in the history of philosophy but does not necessarily construct his own philosophy.
And Kant was that kind?
Kant was both. If he had simply been a brilliant professor and an expert on the ideas of other philosophers, he would never have carved a place for himself in the history of philosophy. But it is important to note that Kant had a solid grounding in the philosophic tradition of the past. He was familiar both with the rationalism of Descartes and Spinoza and the empiricism of Locke, Berkeley, and Hume.
I asked you not to mention Berkeley again.
Remember that the rationalists believed that the basis of all human knowledge lay in the mind, and that the empiricists believed all knowledge of the world proceeded from the senses. Moreover, Hume had pointed out that there are clear limits regarding which conclusions we could reach through our sense perceptions.
And who did Kant agree with?
He thought both views were partly right, but he thought both were partially wrong too. The question everybody was concerned with was what we can know about the world. This philosophical project had been preoccupying all philosophers since Descartes.
Two main possibilities were drawn up. Either the world is exactly as we perceive it, or it is the way it appears to our reason.
Wait,
And
that's
what
my
did
line.
Kant think?
So, two main possibilities were drawn up. Either the world is exactly as we perceive it, or it is the way it appears to our reason.
And what did Kant think?
Kant thought that both sensing and reason came into play in our conception of the world. But he thought the rationalists went too far in their claims as to how much reason can contribute, and he also thought that empiricists place too much emphasis on sensory experience.
If you don't give me an example soon, it will all be just a bunch of words.
In his point of departure, Kant agrees with Hume and the empiricists that all our knowledge of the world comes from our sensations. But, and here Kant stretches his hand out to the rationalists, in our reason, there are also decisive factors that determine how much we perceive the world around us. In other words, there are certain conditions in the human mind that are contributive to our conception of the world.
You call that an example?
Let us rather do a little experiment. Could you bring those glasses from the table over there? Thank you. Now put them on.
Sophie put the glasses on. Everything around her became red. The pale colors became pink, and the dark colors became crimson.
Yeah, hang on one second. I think we have some audience here. Let me give the link if they want to come and join. Okay. So Kishore garu, hello sir. Vamsi garu, hello sir. Okay. So Sophie put the glasses on, everything around her became red. The pale colors became pink and the dark colors became crimson. Okay, fine. What do you see?
I see exactly the same as before, except that it's all red.
That's because the glasses limit the way you perceive reality. Everything you see is part of the world around you, but how you see it is determined by the glasses you are wearing. So you cannot say the world is red even though you conceive it as being so.
No, naturally.
If you now took a walk in the woods or home to Captain's Bend, you would see everything the way you normally do. But whatever you saw, it would all be red.
As long as I didn't take the glasses off, yes.
And that, Sophie, is precisely what Kant meant when he said that there are certain conditions governing the mind's operation which influence the way we experience the world.
What kind of conditions?
Whatever we see will first and foremost be perceived as phenomena in time and space. Kant called time and space our two forms of intuition, and he emphasized that these two forms of our own mind in our own mind precede every experience. In other words, we can know before we experience things that we will perceive them as phenomena in time and space. For we are not able to take off the glasses of reason.
So he thought that perceiving things in time and space was innate.
Yes, in a way. What we see may depend on whether we are raised in India or Greenland. But wherever we are, we experience the world as a series of processes in time and space. This is something we can say beforehand.
But aren't time and space things that exist beyond ourselves?
No, Kant's idea was that time and space belong to the human condition. Time and space are first and foremost modes of perception and not attributes of the physical world.
That was a whole new way of looking at things.
Yep. For the mind of man is not just passive wax which simply receives sensations from outside. The mind leaves its imprint on the way we apprehend the world or comprehend. One would compare it with what happens when you pour water into a glass pitcher. The water adapts itself to the pitcher's form. In the same way, our perceptions adapt themselves to our forms of intuition.
I think I understand what you mean.
Kant claimed that it is not only mind which conforms to things, things also conform to the mind. Now we are getting to the point. Kant called this the Copernican revolution in the problem of human knowledge. By that, by that he meant that it was as new and just as radically different from the former thinking as when Copernicus claimed that the Earth revolved around the sun and not vice versa.
I see now how he could think both the rationalists and the empiricists were right up to a point. The rationalists had almost forgotten the importance of experience, and the empiricists had shut their eyes to the way our own mind influences the way we see the world.
And even the law of causality, which Hume believed man could not experience, belongs to the mind, according to Kant.
Explain that, please.
You remember how Hume claimed that it was only force of habit that made us see a causal link behind all natural processes. According to Hume, we cannot perceive the black billiard ball as being the cause of the white ball's movement. Therefore, we cannot prove that the black billiard ball will always set the white one in motion.
Yes, I remember.
But the very thing which Hume says we cannot prove is what Kant makes into an attribute of human reason. The law of causality is eternal and absolute simply because human reason perceives everything that happens as a matter of cause and effect.
Again, I would have thought that the law of causality lay in the physical world itself, not in our minds.
Kant's philosophy states that it is inherent in us. He agreed with Hume that we cannot know with certainty what the world is like in itself. We can only know what the world is like for me or for everybody. Kant's greatest contribution to philosophy is that dividing line he draws between things in themselves as Ding, das Ding and sich, and things as they appear to us.
I'm not so good at German.
Kant made an important distinction between the thing in itself and the thing for me, the objective reality and the subjective reality, basically. Right? We can never have certain knowledge of things in themselves. We can only know how things appear to us. On the other hand, prior to any particular experience, we can say something about how things will be perceived by the human mind.
We can?
Before you go out in the morning, you cannot know what you will see or experience during the day, but you can know that what you see and experience will be perceived as happening in time and space. You can moreover be confident that the law of cause and effect will apply simply because you carry it with you as a part of your consciousness.
But you mean we could have been made differently?
Yes, we could have had a different sensory apparatus. and we could have had different sense of time and a different feeling about space. We could even have been created in such a way that we would not go around searching for the cause of things that happen around us.
How do you mean?
Imagine that there's a cat lying on the floor in the living room. A ball comes rolling into the room. What does the cat do?
I have tried that lots of times. The cat will run after the ball.
All right. Now you imagine that you are sitting in the same room. You suddenly see a ball coming rolling in. Would you also start running after it?
First, I would turn around to see where the ball came from.
Yes, because you are a human being. You will inevitably look for the cause of every event because the law of causality is part of your makeup.
So Kant says.
Hume showed that we can neither perceive nor prove natural laws. What that made Kant uneasy, but he believed he could prove their absolute validity by showing that in reality we are talking about the laws of human cognition.
Will a child also turn around to see where the ball came from?
Maybe not, but Kant pointed out that a child's reason is not fully developed until it has had some sensory material to work with. It is altogether senseless to talk about an empty mind.
No, that would be a very strange mind.
So now let's sum it up. According to Kant, there are two elements that contribute to man's knowledge in the world. One is the external conditions that we cannot know before we have perceived them through the senses. We can call this the material of knowledge. The other is the internal conditions in man himself, such as the perception of events as happening in time and space and as processes conforming to an unbreakable law of causality. We can call this the form of knowledge. Now we are getting into the ontology and the epistemology of things.
Hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alberto and Sophie remained seated for a while, gazing out of the window. Suddenly, Sophie saw a little girl between the trees on the opposite side of the lake.
Look, said
Look,
Sophie, who's that?
yeah. Look,
Oh, okay,
said
it's your
Sophie,
line.
who's
Sorry,
that?
sorry. I'm sure I don't know.
The girl was only visible for a few seconds, then she was gone. Sophie noticed that she was wearing some kind of red hat.
We shall under no circumstances let ourselves be distracted.
Go on then.
Kant believed that there are clear limits to what we can know. You could perhaps say that the mind's glasses set these limits.
In what way?
You remember that philosophers before Kant had discussed the really big questions, for instance, whether man was an immortal soul, whether there's a God, whether nature consists of tiny indivisible particles, and whether the universe is finite or infinite.
Yes.
Kant believed, one second. Kant believed that there was no certain knowledge to be obtained on these questions. Not that he rejected this type of argument. On the contrary, if he had just brushed these questions aside, he could hardly have been called a philosopher.
What did he do?
Be patient. In such great philosophical questions, Kant believed that the reason operates beyond the limits of what we humans can comprehend. At the same time, there is in our nature a basic desire to pose these same questions. But when, for example, we ask whether the universe is finite or infinite, we are asking about a totality of which we ourselves are a tiny part. We can therefore never completely know its totality.
Why not?
When you put on the red glasses, we demonstrated that according to Kant, there are two elements that contribute to our knowledge of the world: sensory
Sen-
perception and reason. Sorry, that is your line. Okay, good.
Sensory perception and reason.
Yes, the material of our knowledge comes to us through the senses, but this material must conform to the attributes of reason. For example, one of the attributes of reason is to seek the cause of an event,
Like the ball rolling across the floor.
if you like. Maybe that's an example, right? But when we wonder where the world came from and then discuss possible answers, reason is in a sense on hold, for it has no sensory material to process, no experience to make use of, because we have never experienced the whole of the great reality that we are a tiny part of.
We are, in a way, a tiny part of the ball that comes rolling across the floor, so we cannot know where it came from.
But it will always be an attribute of human reason to ask where the ball comes from. That's why we ask and ask. We exert ourselves to the fullest to find answers to all the deepest questions, but we never get anything firm to bite on. We never get a satisfactory answer because reason is not locked on.
I know exactly how that feels. Thank you very much.
In such weighty questions as to the nature of reality, Kant showed that there will always be two contrasting viewpoints that are equally likely or unlikely, depending on what our reason tells us.
Examples, please.
It is just as meaningful to say that the world must have had a beginning in time as to say that it has no such beginning. Reason cannot decide between them. We can allege that the world has always existed, but anything always, but conversely, anything always have existed. Could anything always have existed? Sorry, not conversely. Okay, we can allege that the world has always existed, but could anything have existed if there was never any beginning? So now we are forced to adopt the opposite view. We say
We
that the world must have begun sometime and it must have begun from nothing, unless we want to talk about a change from one state to another. But can something come from nothing, Sophie? So hang on 1 second here. This something has to come from, can something come from nothing?
Mm,
Is a very, very fundamental philosophical question that is used many times, right?
mm.
And people use it as a fait accompli, saying something cannot come from nothing. Okay, I've heard this argument again and again. But what is that nothing? It may be nothing based on your perception, right? So when you define nothing, it is based on sensory perception only, basically. But there may be something that is beyond your senses that might appear to you as nothing. This is where fundamentally Advaita and Buddhism differ. Okay, please go ahead.
Got it. Mm. No, both possibilities are equally problematic. Yet, it seems one of them must be right and the other wrong.
You probably remember the Democritus. Back to our original guy. Democritus is awesome, basically, right? Back to our, you probably remember that Democritus and the materialists said that nature must consist of minimal parts that everything is made up of. Okay, he's like our Vaiseshika guys, right? Break
Hmm.
everything down situation. Others like Descartes believe that it must always be possible to divide extended reality into even smaller parts. But which of them was right?
Both. Neither.
Further, many philosophers named freedom as one of man's most important values. At the same time, we saw philosophers like the Stoics, for example, and Spinoza, who said that everything happens through the necessity of natural law. This was another case of human reason being unable to make a certain judgment, according to Kant.
Both views are equally reasonable and unreasonable.
Finally, we are bound to fail if we attempt to prove the existence of God with the aid of reason. This should be underlined in bold, basically. Finally, we are bound to fail if we attempt to prove the existence of God with the aid of reason. Here, the rationalists like Descartes had tried to prove that there must be a God simply because we have the idea of a supreme being. Others, like Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas, decided that there must be a God because everything must have a first cause.
What did Kant think?
He rejected both these proofs of the existence of God. Neither reason nor experience is any certain basis for claiming the existence of God. As far as reason goes, it is just as likely as it is unlikely that God exists.
But you started by saying that Kant wanted to preserve the basis for Christian faith.
Yes, he opened up a religious dimension. There, where both reason and experience fall short, there occurs a vacuum that can be filled by faith.
So that's how he saved Christianity?
Yeah, maybe if you will. Now, it might be worth noting that Kant was a Protestant. Park, note this point, right? Since the days of Reformation, Protestantism has been characterized by its emphasis on faith. The Catholic Church, on the other hand, has, since the early Middle Ages, believed more in reason as a pillar of faith. But Kant went further than simply to establish that these weighty questions should be left to the faith of the individual. He believed that it is essential for morality to presuppose that man has an immortal soul, that God exists, and that man has a free will. So he does the same as Descartes. First, he is very critical of everything we can understand, and then he smuggles God in back by the back door. But unlike Descartes, he emphasizes most particularly that it is not reason which brought him to this point, but faith. He himself called faith in the immortal soul, in God's existence, and in man's free will practical postulates.
Which means?
To postulate something is to assume that something cannot be proved. By a practical postulate, Kant meant something that had to be assumed for the sake of praxis or practice. That is to say, for man's morality. It is a moral necessity to assume that the existence of God, he said.
Hmm. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Sophie got up, but as Alberto gave no sign of rising, she asked, "Shouldn't we see who it is?" Alberto shrugged and reluctantly got up. They opened the door, and a little girl stood there in a white summer dress and a red bonnet. It was the girl they had seen on the
Bonnet,
other side of
red
the
bonnet,
bonnet.
bonnet,
Okay.
red. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It was the girl they had seen on the other side of the lake. Over one arm, she carried a basket of food. "Hi," said Sophie. "Who are you?"
Can't you see? I am Little Red Riding Hood.
Sophie looked at Alberto and Alberto nodded.
You heard what she said.
"Oh, now I'm this new girl. Huh? Okay. I'm
No, I
looking
don't
for
know.
my
We'll see.
now two girls and Alberto. Okay. "I'm looking for my grandmother's house," said the girl. "She's old and sick, but I'm taking her some food."
It's not here, said Alberto. So you'd better get on your way.
He gestured in a way that reminded Sophie of the way you brush off a fly. "But I am supposed to deliver a letter," continued the girl in the red bonnet. With that, she took out a small envelope and handed it to Sophie. Then she went skipping away. "Watch out for the wolf," Sophie called after her. Alberto was already on his way back into the living room. "Just think, that was Little Red Riding Hood," said Sophie.
And it's no good warning her. She'll go to her grandmother's house and be eaten by the wolf. She never learns. It will repeat itself to the end of time.
But I have never heard that she knocked on the door of another house before she went to her grandmother's.
A bagatelle, Sophie. I don't know
What is
what this.
bagatelle?
I have to look up the meaning of what a bagatelle is.
Yeah. Now Sophie looked at the envelope she had been given. It was addressed to Hilda. She opened it and read aloud. So this is what the letter says, envelope says. Okay. "Dear Hilda, if the human brain was simple enough for us to understand, we would still be so stupid that we couldn't understand it. Love, Dad."
Alberto nodded. True enough, I believe Kant said something to that effect. We cannot expect to understand what we are. Maybe we can comprehend a flower or an insect, but we can never comprehend ourselves. Even less can we expect to comprehend the universe.
Sophie had to read the cryptic sentence in the note to Hilda several times before Alberto went on.
We are not going to be interrupted by sea serpents and the like. Before we stop for today, I'll tell you about Kant's ethics.
"Please hurry, I have to go home soon."
Yeah, okay, quick point. If anybody wants to, we are not monitoring the comments, sir. So if you want to come and discuss, you can come into the panel. Hume's skepticism with regard to what reason and the senses can tell us forced Kant to think through many of life's important questions again, not least in the area of ethics.
Didn't Hume say that you can never prove what is right and what is wrong? You can't draw conclusions from is sentence to odd
Is
sentence.
sentenced to odd sentences.
From is sentence to odd sentences.
So it's like saying A is like this, therefore B ought to be like this.
Oh.
Causality, basically, right? So
Mhm.
you can't draw conclusions from an is sentence to odd sentence. That's what she's saying. Right? For Hume, it was neither our reason nor our experience that determined the difference between right and wrong. It simply was our sentiments. This was too tenuous a basis for Kant.
I can imagine.
Kant had always felt that the difference between right and wrong was a matter of reason, not sentiment. In this, he agreed with the rationalists, who said the ability to distinguish between right and wrong is inherent in human reason. Everybody knows what is right or wrong, not because we have learned it, but because it is born in the mind. According to Kant, everybody has a practical reason, in quotes, that is, the intelligence that gives us the capacity to discern what is right or wrong in every case.
And that is innate?
The ability to tell right from wrong is just as innate as all the other attributes of reason. Just as we are all intelligent beings, for example, perceiving everything as having a causal relation, we all have the access to the same universal moral law. This moral law has the same absolute validity as the physical laws. It is just, so this is a very important point. So I'm going to reiterate this. Just give me 1 second. Connect power back. Okay. Kant had always felt that the difference between right and wrong was a matter of reason, not sentiment. In this regard, he agreed with the rationalists who said the ability to distinguish between right and wrong is inherent in human reason. Everybody knows what is right or wrong, not because we have learned it, but because it is born in the mind. According to Kant, everybody has a practical reason. That is, the intelligence that gives us the capacity to discern what is right or wrong in every case. And is that innate? That's the question Sophie asked. The ability to tell right from wrong is just as innate as all the other attributes of reason. Just as we are all intelligent beings, for example, perceiving everything as having a causal relation, we all have access to the same universal moral law. This moral law has the same absolute validity as the physical laws. It is just as basic to our morality as the statements that everything has a cause or that 70 plus 5 is 7 plus 5 is 12 are basic to our intelligence.
And what does that moral law say?
Since it precedes every experience, it is formal. That is to say, it is not bound to any particular situation of moral choice, for it applies to all people in all societies at all times. So it does not say you shall do this or this if you find yourself in that or that situation. It says how you have to behave in all situations.
But what is the point of having a moral law implanted inside yourself if it doesn't tell you what to do in specific situations?
Kant formulates the moral law as a categorical imperative. By this, he means that the moral law is categorical. Categorical means absolute, or that it applies to all situations. It is, moreover, imperative, which means it is commanding and therefore absolutely authoritative. Kant formulates this categorical imperative in several ways. First, he says, act as if the maxim of your action were to become, through your will, a universal law of nature.
So, when I do something, I must make sure I want everybody else to do the same if they are in the same situation.
Exactly. Only then you will be acting in accordance with the moral law within you. Kant also formulates the categorical imperative in this way. Act in such a way that you always treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never simply as a means, but always at the same time as an end.
So, we must not exploit other people to our own advantage.
No, because every man is an end in himself. But that does not only apply to others, it also applies to yourself. You must not exploit yourself as a mere means to achieving something either.
It reminds me of the golden rule, do unto others.
So the golden rule is do unto others as you wish to be done to yourself, basically.
నీకేం
Right?
జరగాలో అనుకుంటావో అదే
Yeah,
అదర్స్కి చెయ్యి.
exactly. Exactly. Yes, that is also a formal rule of conduct that basically covers all ethical choices. You could say that the golden rule says the same thing as Kant's universal law of morals.
But surely uh, this is
Yeah,
only an assertion. Hume was probably right in that we can't prove what is right or wrong by reason. Actually, I think that's yours.
that
Okay.
is my line. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's okay. But this is only an assertion. Hume was probably right in that we can't prove what is right or wrong by reason. According to Kant, the law of morals is just as absolute and just as universal as the law of causality. That cannot be proved by reason either, but it is nevertheless absolute and unalterable, Nobody would deny that.
I get the feeling that what we are really talking about is conscience. Conscience.
Conscience.
Conscience. Conscience. Okay, because everybody has a conscience, don't they?
Yes, when Kant describes the law of morals, he is describing the human conscience. We cannot prove what our conscience tells us, but we know it nevertheless.
Sometimes I might only be kind and helpful to others because I know it pays off. It could be a way of becoming popular.
It could be a way of becoming, yeah. So charity for the sake of popularity, right?
Mm.
But if you share with others only to be popular, you're not acting out of respect for moral law. You might be acting in accordance with moral law, and that could be fair enough because actions matter more than words. Okay. But if it is to be moral action, you must have conquered yourself. Wonderfully put. Only when you do something purely out of duty can it be called a moral action. Kant's ethics is therefore sometimes called duty ethics.
Wait, ఇక్కడ నాకు ఎందుకు ఐన్ రాండ్ గుర్తొచ్చింది సడన్ గా?
You should speak in English.
Ah, why did I just think about Ayn Rand when you read this
The
sentence?
reason for that is this whole the the virtue of self-interest or
Mm.
what is that the other one?
Don't do something just for the sake of doing it.
Rand,
Just do it only if you really want to do it.
no. It's not. That's not what Rand says. Rand says charity itself is weakness, right?
Mm.
And so she stops with this step. You have to see that there are two steps here. First, you conquer yourself, as in, I don't know what is a good example of this. Rational self-interest. That's what she calls it, right? She says any action that is outside of your rational self-interest is a waste of time, or it's weakness, or it's a self-defeating sort of an action, right? What Kant is saying is he's not saying ethics are bad or ethics are wrong. Kant is saying do something, do the right thing, which is treat others well, but do it for the right reason as well, basically.
Mm.
See, the world of ethics is exactly that. The world of ethics is not, it is a two-faced world. It says do the ethical thing, but do it for the right ethics, basically, for the right reason,
Mm.
right? You are not doing, so for example, doing charity for the sake of popularity might
Mm.
be the right
It's
ethical
okay for
action.
Rand, right? With Rand, it is
Yeah,
okay.
no, Rand would say, why even do charity? Don't even do it, right?
Uh,
You know, in
but
fact,
she's
she would
getting
say,
popularity out of it, right? So at least she'll be
she's
okay with that reasoning.
he might be okay to a certain
Mm.
extent. You're absolutely right. I agree. I think you got it right. Maybe I am going in circles, right? So you got it right, which is Rand would not have a problem if you do charity for popularity, right?
Mm.
But Rand would have a problem if you do charity as a duty, basically.
Mm.
Who is
Correct.
anybody to impose duty? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as a duty, as an obligation, if I have to do some charity, she's not okay with it. But she's okay with
Correct,
it if I know clearly in my head that okay, I do this and I get popularity, what I want.
correct, correct.
Mm.
So anyway, Vamsigar is here. Hello, sir.
Hello, Amsi Garu.
Okay, he's on mute. So let's continue. This is like a fascinating discussion, right?
Mm. Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, I can
but if you
feel it.
share,
Mm.
yeah, correct.
Okay, I can feel it my duty to collect money for the Red Cross or the church bazaar.
Yes. And the important thing is that you do it because you know it is right. Even if the money you collect gets lost in the street or it is not sufficient to feed all the mouths it is intended to, you obeyed the moral law. You acted out of goodwill. And according to Kant, it is this goodwill which determines whether or not certain action was morally right, not the consequences of the action. Kant's ethics is therefore also called a goodwill ethic. Why
Mhm.
was it so important to him to know exactly when one acts out of respect for moral law? Surely the most important thing is that what we do really helps others, um, helps other people. Indeed, it is. And Kant would certainly. So Sophie is asking a question. Sorry, I think that was your
Mhm.
line. Go ahead, Moksha. Please read that line
Why
and
was
then.
it so important to him to know exactly when one acts out of respect for moral law? Surely the most important thing is that we do really help other people.
So again, Sophie is posing the same question. Isn't the action more important than the intent?
Mm,
Right? So um, Kant is responding through Alberto basically, right? Indeed, it is, and Kant would certainly not disagree. But only when we know in ourselves that we are acting out of respect for moral law, are we acting freely. So the point that he made earlier, that you have to first conquer yourself in order to act morally, is in fact probably the linchpin of everything, right?
mm.
So ultimately, um, the onus shifts onto understanding yourself, conquering yourself, or addressing your own weaknesses first before you go out, and that will help you to act in the for the right reasons, you know.
So, okay. Uh, First, I do charity. In both cases, I do charity. In one case, I'm doing it because I feel it's my duty.
Mm,
It's the goodwill ethic. In
correct,
the second scenario, I do it because I'm going to get some popularity out of it.
correct. And
So
Kant would argue, yeah,
when Kant says conquering myself should be the first step, which means I will still do the charity, but I am not going to think about popularity. I understand. Ante kada, because the charity is anyways going to happen. But if I conquer myself, I won't even get a thought about gaining popularity out of it.
correct. Why? Because you are not supposed to manipulate.
Mm,
Neither are you. Neither should you manipulate yourself, nor should you manipulate any other person,
mm.
right?
Because I will
So
not like it if others are giving me charity for their popularity. Because I will
yes,
not like that feeling. I wouldn't do it to others.
correct. And it is very interesting that it came from a Protestant pastor, because now let's shift the scenario to conversions,
Hmm.
right? You are doing it, you are inducing conversion, basically, right? You are
Hmm.
not doing, first of all, conversion itself is a question mark, right? Why don't you let people be as they are? But then you do it, you give people charity with the ultimate aim of converting them. That is manipulation, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. You should let them freely come to your faith if they see um, benefits to it, not induce people, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
we keep moving. As you said,
Okay.
it's a long chapter, right?
Uh, okay. We act freely only when we obey a law. Isn't that kind of peculiar?
So I'll read the previous statement. Indeed, it is. It is. Uh, so Sophie is saying it's most important to act, not necessarily why you act, right?
Hmm.
Indeed, it is, and Kant would certainly not disagree with that. But only when we know in ourselves that we are acting out of respect for moral law are we acting freely. Then Sophie is asking, we act freely only when we obey a law. Isn't that kind of peculiar? So it's like, okay, what kind of law, universal law, that says you have to do X, you have to do Y, it's like a diktat, gives you freedom, right? Because isn't being free of all obeying anything,
Hmm.
right? So that's the question she's posing, not according to Kant. You remember that he had to assume or postulate that man has a free will. This is an important point, because Kant also said that everything obeys the laws of causality. How then can we have a free will?
Search me.
On this point, Kant divides man into two parts in a way not dissimilar to the way Descartes claimed that man was a dual creature, one with both a body and a mind. As material creatures, we are wholly and fully at the mercy of causality's unbreakable law, says Kant. We do not decide what we perceive. Perception comes to us through necessity and influences us whether we like it or not. But we are not only material creatures, we are also creatures of reason. As material belongs, as material beings, we belong wholly to the natural world. We are therefore subject to causal relations. As such, we have no free will. But as rational beings, we have a part in what Kant calls Dasding and Switch. That is, the world as it exists in itself, independent of our sensory impressions. Only when we follow our practical reason, in quotes, which enables us to make moral choices, do we exercise our free will. Because when we conform to moral law, it is we who make the law we are conforming to. So the moral law is not something that is laid out there. It's a law that you make unto yourself. So following that law is not losing freedom, but making free choice according to a law that you yourself made.
Hmm. Yes, that's true in a way. It is me or something in me which tells me not to be mean to others.
So when you choose not to be mean, even if it is against your own interests, you are acting freely.
So when you choose not to be mean, even if it is against your own interests, you're then acting freely. Ah, okay.
So
How is
choosing
it
to
acting
not be,
freely?
yeah, go ahead, please.
Aha, Kadu. Let's say I want to be mean to you,
Right,
but oh, because there is the keyword here is choosing. But I
correct,
chose not to be mean to you.
correct.
That still
So,
means I'm acting freely. Oh.
so there is a moral law that is inherent in you, right? Nobody is imposing it. So that universal moral law, he argues, is part of you, basically. So you following a law that is inherent in you is not imposition, but it's acting on your own free will, basically. Because the law is also part of you. It's not something that is laid out from outside.
Mm.
Yeah,
And I still get to choose. So
exactly,
there is still some freedom there.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. You're not especially free or independent if you just do whatever you want in any case.
If you just do whatever you want, in any case, one can become. So Daoji is also here. Welcome to the panel.
Hello, hello, Vishwagaru. How are
How are
you?
you, sir?
I'm not good, like ill little bit.
Oh, okay, but you will get over it.
Hi,
Don't worry.
Vishwagaru.
Hello,
You are a
Daoji.
strong. You are a strong young man, so you'll become better. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. These all are
Yeah,
Maya. These all Maya. I'm not ill.
exactly.
My body is ill.
Right. It is festival time, so exactly festival time. So don't eat too much. Eat, be moderate, and everything will take care of itself.
Eating is not the problem. Cleaning is the problem.
Well,
Need to do lot
we
of
all have to
cleaning.
deal.
That's why I'm ill.
We all have to find ways of doing whatever we need to do. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's move forward. We'll have a nice discussion at the end of this. Is a very complicated or complex chapter, basically. Okay, one
So
can
where are
become a
we?
slave.
In
We
what
are
page?
can't basically.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not especially free or independent if you just do whatever you want. In any case, one can become a slave to all kinds of things. One can even become a slave to one's own egoism. Independence and freedom are exactly what are required to rise above one's desires and vices.
What about animals? I suppose they just follow their inclinations and needs. They don't have any freedom to follow moral law, do they?
No, that's the difference between animals and humans.
I see that now.
I don't agree with this either, but anyway. And finally, we could perhaps say that Kant succeeded in showing the way out of the impasse that philosophy has reached in the struggle between rationalism and empiricism. With Kant, an era in the history of philosophy is therefore at an end. He died in 1804, um, when the cultural epoch we call Romanticism was in the ascendant. One of the most quoted sayings is One of his most quoted sayings is carved on his gravestone in Königsberg. Two things fill my mind with ever increasing wonder and awe. The more often and the more intensely the reflection dwells on them. What are the two things? The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me.
Wow.
Yeah,
Alberto
amazing.
leaned back in his chair.
That's it, he said. I think I have told you what's most important about Kant.
Anyway, it's a 4:15.
But there's just one thing. Please give me a minute.
I never leave the classroom before the teacher is finished.
Did I say that can't believe we had no freedom if we lived only as creatures of the senses?
Yes, you said something like that.
But if we obey universal reason, we are free and independent. Did I say that too?
Yes, why are you saying it again now?
Alberto leaned towards Sophie, looked deep into her eyes, and whispered, "Don't believe everything you see, Sophie.
What do you mean by that?
Just turn the other way, child."
Now, I don't understand what you mean at all.
People usually say, "I'll believe that when I see it," but don't believe what you see either.
You said something like that once before.
Yes, about Parmenides.
But I still don't know what you mean.
Well, we sat out there on the step talking. Then the so called sea serpent began to flap about in the water.
Wasn't it peculiar?
Not at all. Then Little Red Riding Hood came to the door. "I'm looking for my grandmother's house." What a silly performance. It's just the major tricks, Sophie, like the banana message and that idiotic thunderstorm.
Do you think.
But I said I had a plan. As long as we stick to our reason, he can't trick us because, in a way, we are free. He can let us perceive all kinds of things. Nothing would surprise me. If he lets the sky go dark or elephants fly, I shall only smile. But 7 plus 5 is 12. That's a fact that survives all his comic strip effects. Philosophy is the opposite of fairy tales.
Sophie sat for a moment, staring at him in amazement.
Off you go, he said finally. "I'll call you for a session on romanticism. You also need to hear about Hegel and Kierkegaard. But there's only a week to go before the major arrives at Reykjavik airport. Before then, we must manage to free ourselves from his gluey fantasies. I'll say no more, Sophie, except that I want you to know I'm working on a wonderful plan for both of us.
I'll be off then.
Wait, we may have forgotten the most important thing.
What's that?
The birthday song, Sophie. Hilda is 15 today.
So am I.
Yes, you are too. Yes, let's sing then.
They both stood up and sang. Happy
Happy
birthday to
birthday to you.
you.
It was 4:30. Sophie ran down the water's edge and rowed over to the other side. She pulled the boat into the rushes and began to hurry through the woods. Yeah, I think this is all yours.
Yeah, when she reached the path, she suddenly noticed something moving between the trees. She wondered if it was Little Red Riding Hood wandering alone through the woods to her grandmother's, but the figure between the trees was much smaller. She went nearer. The figure was no bigger than a doll. It was brown and was wearing a red sweater. Sophie stopped dead in her tracks when she realized it was a teddy bear. That someone could have left a teddy bear in the forest was in itself no surprise. But this teddy bear was alive and seemed intensely preoccupied. Hi, said Sophie.
"My name is Winnie the Pooh," said the teddy bear, "and I have unfortunately lost my way in the woods on this otherwise very fine day. I've certainly never seen you before."
Maybe I'm the one who has never been here before, said Sophie. So, for that matter, you could still be back home in 100-acre wood.
"No, that sum is much too hard. Don't forget I'm only a small bear and I'm not very clever.
I have heard of you.
And I suppose you are Alice. Christopher Robin told us about you one day. I suppose that's how we met. You drank so much out of one bottle that you got smaller and smaller. But then you drank out of another bottle and started to grow again. You really have to be careful what you put in your mouth. I ate so much once that I got stuck in a rabbit hole.
I'm not Alice.
It makes no difference who we are. The important thing is that we are. That's what Owl says, and he is very wise. 7 plus 4 is 12, he once said on quite an ordinary sunny day. But Eeyore and me felt very stupid because it's hard to do sums. It's much easier to figure out the weather.
My name is Sophie.
Nice to meet you, Sophie. As I said, I think you must be new around here. But now this little bear has to go because I've got to find Piglet. We are going to a great big garden party for Rabbit and his friends.
He waved with one paw. Sophie saw now that he was holding a little folded piece of paper in the other. What is that you have got there? She asked.
Winnie the Pooh produced the paper and said, "That was what made me lose my way."
But it's only a piece of paper.
No, it's only a piece of paper. No, it's not only a piece of paper. It's a letter to Hilda through the looking glass.
Oh, I can take that.
Are you the girl in the looking glass?
No, but
A letter must always be delivered personally. Christopher Robin had to teach me that only yesterday.
I know Hilda.
Makes no difference. Even if you know a person very well, you should never read their letters.
I mean, I can give it to Hilda.
That's quite a different thing. Here you are, Sophie. If I can get rid of this letter, I can probably find Piglet as well. To find Hilda through the looking glass, you must first find a big looking glass. But that's no easy matter around here.
And with that, the little bear handed over the folded paper to Sophie and set off through the woods on his little feet. When he was out of sight, Sophie unfolded the piece of paper and read it. So it's what it says. Okay. Dear Hilda, it's too bad that Alberto did not also tell Sophie that Kant advocated the establishment of a League of Nations. In his treatise, Perpetual Peace, he wrote that all countries should unite in a League of the Nations, which would assure peaceful coexistence between nations. About 125 years after the appearance of this treatise in 1795, the League of Nations was founded after the First World War. After the Second World War, it was replaced by the United Nations. So you could say that Kant was the father of the UN idea. Kant's point was that man's practical reason, in quotes, requires the nations to emerge from their wild state of nature, which creates wars, and contract to keep the peace. Although the road to the establishment of a League of Nations is laborious, meaning lots of labor. Okay. It is our duty to work for the universal and lasting securing of peace. The establishment of such a league was for Kant a far distant goal. You could almost say it was philosophy's ultimate goal. I am in Lebanon at the moment. Love, Dad. Okay, letter is over. Sophie put the note in her pocket and continued on her way homeward. This was the kind of meeting in the woods Alberto had warned her about, but she couldn't have let the little Teddy wander about in the woods on a never ending hunt for Hilda through the looking glass, could she? With that ends
Can't.
Can't.
Lots of interesting thoughts. So basically, it's a you keep expanding the philosophy to understand how your own mind thinks. Right? Is morality inherent? Is it? Is there a universal law? All these are questions that some of these philosophers pondered.
So, okay, wrong question. But is the little girl, that Red Riding Hood, is she real? And is
No,
this teddy bear for real?
no, these are all comic characters, right? So I think one way I was looking at it is these are stories that the child knows, right?
So she's
So,
just imagining?
or yes, she's just imagining, or it's an interplay between when you have to go to a higher, start asking a set of higher questions. You have to sort of come out of the world that you know and start ignoring all those things because your morality probably comes through these comics initially,
Hmm.
right?
So it's easy for this 13-year-old
That's
to.
okay, Garu.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, good.
No, I was
Go ahead,
saying
Kavish.
ki, you asked a question, na?
Mhm.
Are they real? They are they are all book character. We can also be someone's book character. That's the great part. They are not they are not real in any sense. We know that. But we believe that we are real. This is what I think like the book is telling that you, as you believe you are real, the girl also believes that they are also real, as we believe that we are real. That there is a Vishwagaru, there is a SK Garu, that I believe that they are. So the girl also believes in same way.
Okay.
Yeah, they are not real. That's a fact.
Hmm.
Yeah. The only question is, are you real? What is real? What is real?
Yeah.
The real reality versus what is
So
your perceived
how
real.
Vishwagaru saying na they are not real. No, Vishwagaru saying they are not real. How do you know that, Vishwagaru? Vishwagaru?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here. How do you know? There is some evidence,
Hmm.
right? That you sort of attribute with reality and say, because this is true, that is true, that is true, or at least verifiable. You say that
Hmm.
this character is real, basically.
Teddy bear talking is, I mean, that can't be real, right? I mean,
Winnie the Pooh talks though.
So we need only one teddy bear to talk. Then it's true. Only one
Right.
in the whole world. The problem with truth is that you just need one exception. Like we know there is no white crow, but we need only one. So in philosophy, it's always maybe. Maybe they are not real. There is no absolute truth that they are not real. That's the fun part. Welcome to the philosophy.
Yeah. It's not easy to debate these points. Right. Yeah, I for
Yeah,
one don't believe.
even
Yeah.
I, I
Go
have
ahead.
a I have a great idea. Take some loan from somebody, okay, and then tell if he asks you to return, he said, "I'm not real." Debate that thing.
You know,
If
you will
he's a
find it
person who
very
can debate like who like debate, not fight. If he like fight, then you are real.
exactly.
If he start fighting, if you
yeah.
only debate, then you are not real. You can try it.
Yeah, no,
So
this
tell me,
chapter
how
needs a
was
lot
the
more.
chapter?
Yeah. Chapter was good. Chapter was very interesting. Lots of ideas. Can't sort of. It's a summary as well as a movement forward, basically,
Hmm.
because he addressed a lot of the theories of the other philosophers, and then he had opinions about it. Right? He
Yes.
agreed with some of them. He didn't agree with some of them.
Hmm.
So Kant is very deep, basically. That's what I noticed.
Definitely. Kant is like one of the philosopher
Yeah.
in modern times. I guess phenomena, pneumonia, like pneumonia, I'm saying. What we say? Phenomena and uh, pneumena.
Hmm.
We use that analogy every day in philosophy topics. Like phenomena we can see, pneumena we can't. This is
Yeah.
the like real, not real, but easy definition. That phenomena we see, phenomena we don't see, but the real is like we can experience. So that is phenomena. If we can't experience, it is out of experience. Then it's phenomena. So Kant understanding of reality was very intriguing for a
Yeah.
normal person to even understand, to even comprehend. Oh my
Yeah.
God, my English is getting better and better. Wow.
Yeah. Vamsi Garu has not said anything. So we'll give him a chance. And
Yeah.
welcome Lar Garu to the panel. Yeah.
Thank you. Vamsi, I think, is not there. He's away
He's
somewhere.
You're
no,
saying
he's
Vamsigar
actually
is not real?
unmuting, but yeah,
Are you saying
No,
he's
why,
not
sir?
real?
He is partially real today because he starts speaking.
Well, he-
Goes dropped it. See,
He's gone.
I'm here. He's saying
He's
I'm
gone.
here, but he's not there.
he's a
He is an
true
imaginary person. I told you today.
he's a true representation of Maya. It appears as if it is there, but when you ask the question, is it really there? It will disappear.
Hmm.
are you real this time, Vamsi Garu?
His voice is not appearing. Some problem with his mic, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. He's partially real today because
Hmm.
if he's truly really real, then the voice has to come also.
I already told you this
He dropped again.
this function na this is very bad. It also kicked me out three times before I'm able to speak or something.
Look,
We have to change the setup.
the other programs or the other applications are even worse. Now, StreamYard is one of the more reliable ones.
No,
So
this
what
is
can I
more
say?
reliable than anything else.
Yeah,
So how can it be reliable? Are you using laptop or computer or something? Like because in
no, it
mobile
is
it's not
more
reliable.
reliable. You need to understand. It is more reliable than the others. That's what we are saying.
Hmm.
The others are
See,
even worse.
I am today on mobile. It's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Usually I
Your
enter through
mobile is
laptop, but
like
today
money, like manga.
and I use a Chinese mobile. You start using Chinese mobiles rather than fancy
I
US.
also use Chinese mobile, but it's
But then,
like very.
Look,
It's not very costly.
Everybody in India I noticed has a Chinese mobile. They don't tell people. That's all. Right?
No, no, we
China has
tell.
all
see,
We know that
no, no,
China is not real. We know that.
no, no.
So we tell everything.
The reason why we use Chinese mobile is those are the only phones we can afford.
right.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Mm. We are a third world country still, you know.
Yeah. So, chapter.
Uh, is Vamsigar there or no? Hello, sir. Hello, hello. Again, he's gone.
He dropped. He's virtual, you know. He dropped. Is putting message in the comments.
Sir, I don't know what's
Some
happening.
no, the problem with his mic, I think. That's the only thing which is stopping him from speaking.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sometimes his connectivity issues will have a problem. Can't tell.
Mic, sir. Microphone. Adjust your microphone. But anyway, I think Vamsigar, there'll be another Ratsapanda session or whatever. So you can.
No, no. Today there is no Rachapanda. Today is between you and Doctor Garu.
Oh,
Nothing to do
that's
with any of us.
Iron Rand thing.
Yay!
Okay.
Ayn Rand today.
Okay. So in that case, I'll have to take a break, as in
Mhm.
get ready for that or whatever. So we'll slowly close this session.
So send me link if
Yeah,
any other session is going to be.
Yeah, I'll send you.
yeah, sure.
Send you the link.
Yeah, you
I
always say, but you didn't. You don't. Like
No,
It's
that thing
Telugu
you have to
session.
watch on.
Bishop.
It's in Telugu. First of all, you don't understand language. Second is you will be in the comments only. Even I will be in comment. Only two people will be there
Oh,
discussing, debating, whatever.
So
okay,
here is
okay.
let me
Inside
tell you
alone,
the
somebody
setup.
else.
Daji, let me tell you the setup. So this there is this doctor who is a big fan of
Mm-hmm.
Ayn Rand. Okay.
Okay, अच्छा.
So in one of these long sessions, and there is a Telugu director called Ram Gopal Varma, who is a big fan of
Yes,
Ayn
I
Rand,
know that.
basically.
Of course, everybody knows RGV. RGV is pan India.
Pan India, yeah. It's like Pain India, basically, right? So, so I was one day trashing him and Ayn Rand together. So he got very sort of, he's like, I'm a big supporter of Ayn Rand's philosophy, blah, blah, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, let's
Hello.
debate. So we have had two sort of debates so far. Today is the
Mic
third one.
testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Vamsi Garu, welcome. It's
Vamsi,
finally. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
here, but you have to be louder.
Okay, that we can do.
So HK Garu is more
Oh
real
my
than
God,
Sophie Garu.
premium English.
Exactly.
Welcome,
Hansi,
premium.
welcome, premium.
Welcome.
Thank you. So you should come to Manavahini. We will move to Hindi just for you. It's fine.
No,
Unless
I don't
not
know.
you're
Hindi.
not the
English is
host.
good.
देखिए हम तो host नहीं है. So the host has to allow you.
No,
That's
we'll
that's the
allow.
thing.
The only thing is, it is
Oh,
going to be it's a Telugu scene.
it's mostly Telugu. Either you learn the language or we speak Hindi or
Yeah.
both.
So,
So,
I asked my teacher what is the fastest way to learn. He said, listen. Okay. That's why I need to come at least 50, 60
there is that also.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good guidance. So in this one, I had one thing that kind of jumped at me while you guys were reading the book.
Mm,
There was
mm,
one line where they say that if you follow the rules, you're like free, right? There's one line like
mm,
that on those lines. I'm like, how can that be
mm.
free? It didn't add up in my head.
Because it's your rule.
You know what I'm talking about, Vishwagar?
Yes.
It's your rule.
So
That's the difference.
how do you justify the line that if you follow the rules,
He's not. Are you
you
able to
are
hear what I'm saying? Hello?
you are morally
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
free?
But
That's what the line says.
Yes,
But how
yes, you
can
are
that
audible,
be?
Vishwagaru.
are you able to see Vishwa? Are you able to
Yes,
like
I am able
hear?
to see, I am able to hear also.
Okay. Sorry, see now here. I'm
Oh, you
asking
cannot
premium,
hear
sir.
me? Yeah,
No,
you
I
cannot.
can hear you, but are you able to hear Vishwagaru?
No,
Yes,
I cannot.
I am.
Oh, oh, he cannot.
I need to probably do. I need to fix my devices. I think there's something odd. ठीक है. Okay, we
Yeah,
will
because he's
drop it.
saying something.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, we are nearing closure.
Yeah. My bad.
So no big deal. Let's see if we can.
Apologies.
Otherwise, we
We
can
drop it.
close. No problem. So let's close the session for today. In that case, bye, Dawji.
Yeah,
See you
sorry.
around.
Yeah,
No, he's
Dawji,
fixing
Ah,
like
he's back. Yes.
fixing that.
no, no,
Yes.
I put the link to this Iron Rand session in your TG also.
Hmm.
I have to
Okay.
I have some domestic work for the next 1 hour, and then I'll join that session.
Okay.
Okay.
All
No,
right.
no
In
problem.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
All
the
right.
question is good. If you want to be free, you need to follow the rules. Good question.
Correct. Correct. All right. Thanks
We will
everybody
talk
for
in the next
joining.
session.
Thanks to Tauji, all the panel members, all the people who participated in the comments. We're going to close this session. Have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you next Sunday.